Hey everybody, this is Jim Kurtz with Harvest Harmonics, and I want to welcome you again to our Successful Farmer Show, where we highlight some of the successful farmers in the industry and people that are having a lot of success and wins, especially with our Kiminosi plant booster technology. And today it's my extreme pleasure to welcome Jim Reed with KR Citrus, who was one of our earliest users in the beginning here. Jim, thank you so much for joining us here.
Well, thank you, and glad to be in communication with you. Glad to be able to be on your show. Thank you.
Yeah, and Jim, so just want to give people a little bit of an idea. Your background, obviously. So first of all, I guess how long have you been farming? You've been at it a while, I think.
Well, I got out of college in 1966, and I've been making my living farming ever since then. However, I did a few years ahead of that start working for my father in the summers and so on and so forth, and so basically been involved since 1958, which is quite a while.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a long career, and that's great. So have you always been farming citrus? I know you have citrus groves now, and you have a nursery, which we'll get to, but have you always kind of focused on citrus, or have you grown other crops also?
Well, I have for the last 50 years focused on citrus. I've been making a living farming for 55 years. The first few years out of college, I did run a fairly large row crop ranch, and we did potatoes, and we did cantaloupes, we did carrots, cotton, all the grains, and you name it. And then and over the years, I've been involved in farming operations where we've done grapes and nuts, and done every nut except pistachios. I don't know how I missed that, but almonds and walnuts, prunes, plums, but citrus has been my primary thing.
Is there something specific about citrus that's either better, you like better about other crops, or does that just happen to be like what you were growing and what you kind of stuck with?
Well, I call citrus a unique staple because everybody has it. Everybody believes they need it for the vitamin C, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just look at the numbers, and yeah, we have freezes that have kind of skew the numbers once in a while, both on the farm and in the bank account. But over the past few years, we've been able to mitigate those losses with insurance programs that we pay for, mm-hmm. that it kind of make it a little more stable. I don't know. I got into it. I started in citrus, not counting when I was 13, but after when I was making a living at it, I was a field man for a small sun-kissed packing house, and they had a freeze, and they needed somebody to get volume, and I was able to triple their volume in short order, build that to 3 packing houses, and then I went on into owning and running packing houses of my own, and got into juice plants. I just got entrenched in the citrus deal. Then I started mm-hmm. developing citrus. Yeah. So it just happened that way.
So once you kind of get going with something, it becomes easier just to kind of keep going with that same crop as opposed to try to diversify and try other things and that kind of stuff.
Well,
to some degree.
I became vertically integrated, Jim.
Oh.
We had ownership in juice plants, in packing houses, and the farm himself. So okay. It just you just got into a cycle, and there was just no reason to get out. Occasionally, we would take on another project with wine grapes or fresh grapes, whatever. Our farming company would take that on occasionally. But our staple has been citrus pretty much.
Awesome. And just so you guys are watching, I just want to again welcome you to the Successful Farmer episode. And guys, if you're watching this, please don't hesitate. Ask your questions, leave your comments here. We do read them. We will ask Jim here, our guest. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments so that we can ask them and interact. We want to make this an interactive show also, so feel free, of course, to type them in the comments as we go along here. Now, again, Jim, what kind of challenges are you facing right now? I mean, it's kind of an interesting year. I've been talking to farmers all over California, and drought seems to be a big issue, and there's some other issues. What challenges are you facing right now in terms of the citrus this year?
We have had unprecedented heat, and we had our water cut 30%. And those two don't really make for a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
We've been able to buy emergency water at double the cost or more of our regular water. And of course, we're using every method that we can to conserve water. So that's kind of our challenge. We also had in the citrus, uh, and I really don't know why, we have we have two major pests in citrus: thrips,
Mm-hmm.
scales. And the thrip, we normally spray for in the spring when the citrus just comes out of bloom and it's the size of a BB or a little bigger. And that usually takes care of it for, maybe you have to spray again. Well, we had to turn right around and respray again. Whether it was weather related, I'm not sure, but we couldn't get the spray rigs back in the field fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, on our organic uh, production, it becomes even more challenging because it's about 4 or 5 times the amount of money to spray for organic to control thrips than it is to do it with on your conventional thrips. So that's kind of been it. Those two things have been a pretty good challenge. And of course, with extreme heat right after the bloom, then you also have what we call June drop. We got June drop in May because we had 106, 108, 111 temperatures in May and June. And so I think we're probably going to have a pretty light crop next season. But the light crops really don't scare me a lot because we tend to make up we get a little better price. It's law demand, supply and demand, and then you don't pay as much for picking because you don't have as much to pick, and you don't pay as much in different services. But per acre returns have been as good or better in light crop years than heavy crop years.
Okay, very cool. Now, I kind of want to go back a couple years ago. What made you, a couple years ago, you decided to try our Kiminosi plant booster? I believe you tried it on one of your 30-acre groves, and then I think one of your greenhouses. What made you decide to sort of try this product and this technology out?
I have always been looking for new and better ways. Not so much new, but better ways to farm.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried all kinds of things as they come along, and I've gotten burned a few times, but I've also had some successes as well. And I read the literature that was available and what was on your website, and did the research on the doctor, and so on and so forth. And then I asked you for some references before I tried it.
Mm-hmm.
And you gave me one fellow in the Northwest. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. You probably do. And we got along great. He grew melons. He grew some tree fruit. And his parting comment to me was, "I wouldn't farm anything without it." So I thought, well, he seemed quite sincere. So I thought I would try it. I just planted 30 acres of young citrus, not far from here. And so I got a device from you, and I bought that one. And I told you about the one we had dragon fruit growing in, different rooms in our greenhouse, which was an old citrus packing house we converted over.
Right.
And it had multiple areas and multiple supplies of water, not just one big one like on a farm. We got one supply in the room.
Yeah.
So you gave me a device to try,
right.
And we watched that, and we had another room right next to it, about some size, or about 5,000-6,000 square foot rooms, and we were able to water both those rooms. And then we have other ones that we didn't try it on, and then they just rooted. They normally takes 21 to 4 weeks, 21 to 30 days to root. We were rooting them in 14, 16 days. And the growth was faster. I got new growth faster. We tried it 2 or 3 times. It just wasn't one planting, one and done. It was a few plantings from different growers. And then I decided I would do that. And on the citrus, my goodness, a neighbor of mine planted a year ahead of me. And after 3 months, my trees were as big as his, or bigger. I think I sent you a video showing you that.
Yeah, man, we saw.
It's still true to this day. That growth is. As a matter of fact, I just sold that growth an hour or so ago. I wasn't even trying to tell a neighbor that I don't know what you're doing, but I got to have that growth. So,
well, you should give him my number. I'll give him the plant booster so he can have it on his other field too.
I will absolutely tell him about that. He has pistachios right around there, so he won't be a hard sell. He's a real nice and so I'll be sure to tell him about that. So
Now, do you
that's
think?
why I did it.
Awesome. Well, do you think that those citrus seedlings, do you think that they're going to end up being able to produce a crop faster based upon their growth rate, or is that just
No
really
question.
determined on this thing?
No question. No
Yeah.
question. In my mind. Yeah. So and then I put it on the 100-acre organic grove that we have, and I will say that the organic groves, you drive by and you can see, oh, there's weeds, that they're light color, they're necrotic. You can kind of tell they're organic groves.
Hmm.
Mine doesn't look like that. My organic grove looks very similar to the conventional grove right next to it. Other than I have a few weeds, and
Yeah.
I'm working on that. No, I'm very pleased with the setup.
Yeah. No, we're really pleased. We've obviously you've helped us out. You know, like you mentioned, you talked to a farmer that used it, and I know we've referred people to you as, hey, you know, talk to Jim, talk to Art, talk to some of these guys that have used it, because at the end of the day, we're promoting a product and we know what it does, but sometimes it's best for somebody that doesn't have a vested interest necessarily to hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, of what their experiences were. So we really appreciate the help that you've given us over the last couple of years.
Well, the thing about your system, it is a fair amount of upfront cost, but you've been flexible and able to help farmers mitigate in the cash flow. And I think that you're creative, and I think you're getting more creative in that area all the time of how we can afford to pay for it as we go along. And I think that will help a lot.
Right. Now, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago that your organic groves were looking more like conventional groves. Like, what exactly do you mean by that? What are the changes you've seen there?
Well, an organic grove, you're always fighting to put on your main enemy. You can't get enough nitrogen on,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't so the trees, the leaves are smaller. When the trees are yellow, they're just not as healthy. And the with the Kiminosi system, we are seeing that I'm just going to assume we put a lot of inputs in it, so I'm going to assume that the system allows the inputs to work and use more efficiently, to use more of what we're putting in would be my guess. My brother farms not quite 1,000 acres of citrus, same area, and we have the he farmed for another existing farmer. He's our farm manager, but he calls all the shots on their citrus, and he farmed some of the stuff that I planted years ago for other investors. And I could see on the organic that my trees just look better, and I have better. I just looked at a whole lot of them the day before yesterday. I'm going, wow. I mean, wow! With the shortages we've had to endure with water and the heat, I was much more pleased than I'd ever been. I drove through some of the stuff that he's planting and he's farming, excuse me, and he even have the same inputs, but the trees are just so much better with the system. I just like I said, I'm afraid to farm without it now. To tell you the truth.
Well, that's good. Hopefully, you won't ever have to. I wanted to ask you some questions about the dragon fruit. You kind of mentioned them a little earlier. So the dragon fruit, for those of you guys who don't know, dragon fruit's kind of like a cactus style plant. Is it a succulent or a cactus? I'm not sure which.
The cactus.
Yeah. So, you're growing them. You're buying them as small seedlings. I think what you said, 4 to 6 inches long, basically, like small shoots.
They're cuttings and
Cuttings, yeah.
More like 12 inches up.
Okay.
It's a very prolific plant, and so when the growers prune, I'll get some that are 45 inches, 50 inches long from time to time, and that's fine. It's fine. But they're a very aggressive cactus.
Okay. So and you're growing them. You're buying the cuttings, and then you're growing them up to full size, and then you're selling them to like retail gardening chains, correct?
I sell them to a box store.
Okay.
And we haven't. We just got approached by a wholesale nursery chain that has several stores to supply them. We're just now getting to the point where we're able to keep up with the box store that we have, their demand. And it took a while. We've only been doing it for a little over a year. We started it in late November of 2019. So we just had one full season, and we didn't know what we were doing at all. and we couldn't find anybody that's growing more than 1,000 plants, and we have 100,000. So you have to, little economies of scale are a little different, but we made some mistakes, but we're certainly improving on how we grow them and the health of them and so on and so forth. So
yeah, and when you were showing us the pictures of the side-by-sides, you mentioned you did some control and some several different experiments along the way, and you were showing us some of the side-by-side pictures, and I'm like, wow. It's like, wow, in 5 weeks they were like literally double the size. I'm like, geez,
Yeah, they grow well. When they come out with a different shoot, you got to stock, and then as it grows a different shoot on top of that. And without the treatment, they grow a little piece of spaghetti. And let's say in 6 weeks after we plant them, and with the treatment, they grow like a big old something the size of a nice, like a maple leaf size, much larger size, much larger around and taller and stronger, and just the plant just looks a lot better. It grows better. So everything we do here and now is with the system.
Yeah, and I was noticing that it's not just that they're taller, or even that the trunks are thicker, which obviously is important because if they're real thin, they're going to fall apart. But I also noticed that the pictures of the Kiminosi were real green. They were like a bright green as opposed to sort of more of a duller green on the ones that didn't have the tech back then.
That's correct. They have a darker, richer green color. That's correct.
Yeah, and you're also growing now. You started growing coffee plants, correct?
We just started growing coffee plants, for the same box store, and we're going to deliver in a week or two test plot. We started with a few, and I can't tell you there's any difference with or without the treatment because I wouldn't take a chance. I just put them on with the treatment. So I don't have a test to show you or tell you about.
That's fine. It's totally fine. I mean, I can't. What advice would you give other growers that might be looking at this or considering it, or not sure because maybe it's a new, it's a new company, new technology. What kind of advice could you give them as far as, what you've seen with this technology and how it's helped you in your farm?
Well, farmers, we must all be from Missouri because we all want to be shown. You got to show them. So, and my family's from Iowa, right next door, so it spilled over, I guess. And so that's exactly. I didn't just go out and say, okay, gee, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. I believe every report I read, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get them on my crop ASAP. I didn't do that. I explained the history of it. We tried it on the smallest grove that we have, and that was the least expensive entry fee for me. And then we tried it on the dragon fruit, and that wasn't a whole lot. Well, yes, you gave me that one, so that made that experiment pretty. The entry fee was pretty cheap there, and then we were able to see what it was. So then we went ahead and put it on everything. So just give it a try. Give it a try. Every farm is a little different. I had a guy call me from the East Coast, and he did greenhouses with tomatoes. And I asked him, do you have separate watering systems for your different greenhouses? Yeah. I said, well, you got a 3/4 inch pipe or a 1 inch pipe? Yeah. So we'll just try one on one of those, and then you can see. Just do side by side, and within 90 days, 120 days max, you're going to see if it works for you or not. So just try.
Yeah, and we guarantee it. We're not giving so many freebies out anymore, but we're guaranteeing it anyway. I mean, we always, our motto has always been like, no farmer is ever going to lose money with us. When I got into this business, the way Frank, our CEO, got me involved with this is he said, look, we're here to help farmers doing whatever we can do, and we're not going to, if for some reason our product doesn't work, and despite all the good intentions and efforts otherwise, we'll give you your money back, because at the end of the day, both of my grandparents were farmers, and they're the backbone of this country, so they feed everybody, every man, woman, and child. So we better do something to help farmers. That was our mission here. So.
Well, that's our job. Our job is to feed the world.
Yeah. And you're doing a great job. I really appreciate everything you've done so far, everything you're doing, not just with us, but obviously just in terms of helping people. And I did want to mention this. I don't want to embarrass you, but I did want to mention this, guys. Jim has, and several of the times that I've, called him to follow up on various things, Jim has mentioned that, he's helping a neighbor, he's helping a friend, helping a buddy. There was a bunch of wildfires last year, and I remember a couple of times when I called you, said, "No, I'm helping a guy who just lost his house," and you're very much a humanitarian and an all-around good guy, and I just wanted to thank you for not just farming and helping us, but everything you do to help everybody, because guys like you are very special, and you definitely deserve to be praised for that.
Well, I don't deserve any praise. The Lord deserves all the praise, and the glory is all His. And if you just help other people, I don't do it because of the rewards I get, but you help other people, you get it back in spades. So I love helping people. You're right. I do love helping people, and I'm blessed so much for doing that. But I get blessed by doing it myself, not for doing it, but I get blessed because it gives me such a good feeling.
Yeah, and the same way, like every time somebody, like yourself or somebody gives me a testimonial or gives me a success story, says, "Hey, I've seen all these different results that I didn't think were possible." That's my validation for, for helping. That lets me know that I'm helping others and helping farmers, and obviously ultimately helping others too. So, Jim, I really appreciate having you on the show today. I mean, thank you so much for everything you're doing. And guys, if you want to see some successes like Jim's having, please give us a call. We're here to help as much as we can. And Jim, thank you so much for being on our show today. We really enjoyed having you. And any last words for our viewers out there?
Just keep the chin up, keep farming, and we'll all prevail. And thank you.
Awesome. It's cool. Thank you so much, Jim. Appreciate it. And thanks a lot, guys. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow to our special webinar, how we're using biophysics to change agriculture around the world. And also on Friday with our Ask an Expert special, where we have an industry expert to show you how you can improve various areas of your farm. So don't forget to stay tuned for that. Jim, thank you so much again, and we'll see you guys soon.
Take care now.
Thank you.